Hi, my name is Mary, and I'm privileged to join you today from the unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples. Indigenous peoples are near and dear to my heart as I continue my cultural humility journey and learn more about health and vaccine equity. In this video, I will revisit two briefing notes found in the Evidence Synthesis Network Directory and produced by the Ontario Provincial Ministry of Health in response to questions 10 and 19. And this mural summarizes the evidence. So for question 10, which is about the benefits and pitfalls of vaccines and incentives, the briefing titled Effectiveness of Incentives to Promote COVID-19 Vaccine Uptake, you can see that there's evidence for COVID-19 vaccines as well as other vaccines. And in blue, you can see neutral evidence. In green, benefits, and in pink, potential pitfalls. And these evidence points are actually the same as in video number 1, so I won't spend too much time on them. But just for example, of neutral evidence, there's mixed evidence regarding effectiveness of financial incentives for both COVID-19 vaccines and other vaccines. For example, a benefit would include regarding non-financial incentives. One study found the Israel Green Pass, for example, may increase willingness to be vaccinated for COVID vaccines. And a potential pitfall for other vaccines, one qualitative study found minimal interest in parental incentives aiming to increase preschool age child vaccination, for example. Now moving on to question 19, which is about vaccine mandates for healthcare workers. The briefing note titled Mandatory COVID-19 Vaccination Policies for Healthcare Workers helps answer this question. And the bottom line really is Ontario Ministry of Health strongly recommends COVID-19 vaccination for healthcare workers. However, vaccination is voluntary and employers have the choice to develop mandatory staff vaccination policies. And similarly, you can see neutral evidence in blue, potential benefits in green, such as mandatory vaccination likely increases rates, and then a number of pitfalls in pink. So for example, non-adherence consequences and unintended consequences. And what I really want to focus on in video number 2 is in this Venn diagram, you can see this overlap in limitations between question 10 and question 19. For example, in lecture, they suggested that incentives and mandates are extrinsic as opposed to intrinsic motivators to get vaccinated. Secondly, generalizability may be a concern. For example, what works in high-income countries may not work in low or middle-income countries. Similarly, what helps young people get vaccinated may not be relevant as much for older adults. And also, these studies look at different vaccine-preventable diseases and even health-related behaviors, not only COVID-19 vaccines. Thirdly, incentives and mandates, as mentioned in lecture, may have possible backlash effect. And finally, data quality and reliability may be a challenge as well. So what are some alternatives to incentives and mandates? So in lecture, we learned that there's a number of different factors to consider when thinking about vaccine demand. And we can look to these models or diagrams to help us understand other areas of focus. And as suggested in lecture as well, incentives and mandates may be a last resort, at the top of the ladder to building vaccine demand. So thank you so much for your time today and listening to this presentation, and of course for including me in this incredible learning experience.